All right, welcome guys.
I like people wearing shorts in February.
Yeah, all right.
Like
I actually just got some half treatment
Oh, yeah.
from Bill with BioFit, so he worked me out. Here's the deal, like I'm so thankful for having him in our gym because
I'm thankful I haven't needed it yet.
yeah, well, I mean, and that's something to be thankful for too.
I got big stuff coming.
I had a random scenario with my calf yesterday doing some jump rope, and I'm very thankful I got a little work done, a little dry needling, a little scraping, and it was nice. So yeah, we're thankful for him. Welcome coaches. Thanks for joining me again. Coach Millie over here, Coach Sam. I'm Coach Josh, and we've been talking the last 2 weeks. We've started our our 10 general physical skills series. And so we've talked about cardiorespiratory endurance, we've talked about stamina, and today we're going to talk about strength. And so we've got the strongest guy in the gym right here in the middle. So we're going to try to keep him like regulated and controlling. He's pretty passionate around this topic, but
I thoughts.
I got thoughts, yeah.
I've been working on it for over a decade.
So yeah, to be perfectly honest, I've provided you guys notes the last 2 weeks on this, and this week I did not.
Yeah, I can't believe that you're allowed to freestyle this way.
So and actually the notes would have been best for this one because this thing could get really crazy. But we have regulated times to finish because we have to go get children from schools and everything else. Yeah, yeah, he's the most free. So like if
they
you
may have a hard out.
yeah, if you see in the middle of the podcast, like Coach Millie and I just roll out and Coach Sam just stays and keeps talking about strength. Like, it may happen today. So, anyways, guys, so CrossFit designed these 10 general physical skills to define what fitness really is. And we talked about this over the last couple of weeks. If you want to have a little bit more insight to this, you can kind of go back to the last couple of episodes that we've published. But ideally, what we're looking for is in these 10 general physical skills, it's to create well-rounded fitness over specific fitness, right? So
a general athlete.
A general athlete over that specific athlete of, I can lift heavy, but I can't run far, right? I can run fast. So when CrossFit did this, they really defined or created a very a more specific definition of what fitness truly is. And the idea behind it is in these 10 general physical skills, you are only as fit as you are capable in all 10 facets, right? So the facet that we're going to talk about today is strength. And as we're going to be a little bit intentional in how we approach these topics and these 10 skills. And we were intentional around cardiorespiratory endurance being our first one because cardiovascular and respiratory systems are the basis of everything that we need, right? So if I can't breathe and I can't get oxygen from the blood into the muscles, I can't do anything else.
What else do we expect to happen?
Right. And those systems, when those are not working well, it makes everything else in the body harder. And so therefore, very difficult to develop fitness in any other area if those aren't sustainable. The second one that we discussed is stamina. And in stamina, the stamina piece is the muscle's ability to continue to fire over a longer duration, right? And we define that in a couple different ways. Coach had a really good definition last week about this, but ultimately I need my muscles to fire over a longer duration so that I can then develop the next skills. And so that's kind of why we mix up cardiovascular endurance and stamina before we talk about strength. Strength, if I had to consider like the next piece of the pyramid, is the next base of the pyramid, right?
It's the next thing that's going to prevent you from being able to do tasks.
Yes, and strength is your body's ability to distribute force, right? And so, Coach, do you have another definition that you like to use?
Yeah, I mean, it's something really, like you said, I always aim for the explanation that speaks to the person that doesn't actually care about this. So my version of that one is the ability to overcome resistance. Just very, very simple. Can you move it or not?
Yeah. We can get really like emotional and deep on that.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Resistance there, right? Yes. Yeah. So great. Yeah. Right. Yeah. But if we lack strength, then it makes everything that we do more difficult, right? But the stronger we are, the easier we can accomplish tasks. And the easier we can accomplish tasks, the better we can improve our fitness, right?
And the less stress you put on your heart, we'll talk longevity.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's where what's been cool about the research on strength is they've finally started researching it in perspective of how does this affect our longevity.
Mhm.
Independence too, your independence, how long you can be independent for.
Yep, for sure. So, Coach, maybe we talked about this. I think we touched on this the other day. But like if you had to like think about like, all right, like if the only thing I do with someone, right? If there's nothing else I could do with a client, or if there was one thing I could work with someone, I think we talked about this, like walking, just that cardiorespiratory endurance training, right? That's important. But like, I'd like to think that probably the next step for you is going to be like, if there's nothing else I can do with someone, I want to do strength training.
Yeah. That's where if we have a very unspecific goal, and they are simply I want to be able to do whatever I want person. That's where I'm probably going to go with like the basis of their program, and not necessarily. And I think it's really important to understand there's a difference between building strength and training for a 1 rep max.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a really important thing to understand as we say this, is that not all strength is competition. So there's a big component of strength. I think that we've got this really unfortunate bias to mismeasure our strength by 1 rep max, period.
Yeah.
Other things that are very relevant markers of ways to measure strength: take a weight and how far can you carry it without putting it down?
Mm-hmm.
How heavy can you carry? What's the heaviest implement you can carry a specific distance? How long can you hold this? Dead hang on a pull-up bar. In the grand scheme of things, is a 3 or a 5 rep max any less valuable or relevant than a 1 rep max? I mean, I think there's probably a better argument to be made that it's more relevant.
Yeah.
Because I can't think of very many times in my life where it's been just
I only have to do this one time.
what 1-2 second effort. I mean, Millie, you've had a kid. was it more like a 1 rep or a 5 rep? Right?
It's funny. It is. It's funny you say that because I've watched a couple babies be born, and I'm like, I mean, this is a max load deadlift here, but it's like a max load deadlift for anywhere from 20 minutes to 2 hours. So
I had a friend that just had their first, and they were in the hospital for 27 hours on it.
That's insane.
Yes, that's a long time.
I stayed in the hospital for 27 hours. It wasn't for the entire
labor.
piece. Yeah. Something else that gets kind of thrown around when we think about strength is that means that size is a component. And so one of the things that I think we hear a lot is, especially probably our females that like are exploring the idea of CrossFit, is that, well, I don't want to get bulky. I don't want to get big. Well, because we train, it's
Josh. I've
been doing CrossFit for like 15 years, and I'm still the same size I think it was when I started.
With the goal of getting bulky.
I've been trying to get bulky. It's not working.
One day Gina will.
But the idea of strength and size are not they're not linear, right?
They're not 1-to-1.
Yeah. So when we talk about being stronger or getting stronger, when we talk with like our a female who says like I'm worried about getting bulky, the idea of doing strength training or lifting strength, doing traditional strength exercises, maybe like the deadlift, the squat, the bench, or whatever else, does not correlate with getting bigger. But strength development is, again, your body's ability to to go against resistance, or
the ability to overcome
resistance, right?
Yeah.
It's not your body's ability to be bigger, right?
Yeah.
So
and heavy lifting can be a portion, if that's a goal. The heavy lifting and the strength bias training, where you are probably going to start working towards 1 and 3 rep maxes, they're an accessory or an assistance to the goal of getting bigger. But it's not even the most important piece of the puzzle. Nutrition is definitely a bigger piece of the puzzle. If you want to if you want to gain weight, you got to eat like it's your job. I mean, it's literally what I'm doing right now is for the first time ever, I'm in the process of trying to gain weight.
Yeah.
And strength training is an assistance to that goal.
Yeah, the food is way bigger.
Yeah, it's way bigger, it's way harder.
Yeah.
I love food and it's just so much.
Millie, how would you like, because you started CrossFit, what, 2017, 16?
2015.
15? Okay.
Mhm.
So what was your perspective on like the strength training component of things? Like, was it just like, oh yeah, this looks cool, let's do this? Or like, what was your, how did you?
It's funny you asked that because I distinctly remember I
Were
went
you
to
one of those out where you, did you walk the do?
well, I don't know. Friend
I
and
triggered her.
we went to our first like bring a friend workout. We were both friends of a lady who was a member of the gym, and afterward we both joined right after. And then we went to lunch and we were sitting there and she's like, well, I just don't want to get bulky and I don't want to become obsessed with this. And I was like, oh, that'll never happen. Now I'm a coach. It's fine.
Yeah.
I obviously didn't know what I was talking about, but I think for me going into it, and my friend whose fear was becoming bulky, it's just because we didn't have any understanding of what CrossFit or strength training was. Neither one of us had athletic backgrounds. I think I was thinking of like, you know, the bodybuilding women on stage.
Right.
I didn't understand the difference between.
Well, so you didn't like go to this gym and see a couple of gals that were maybe a little.
No, I mean, there were some definitely in shape women, but I wasn't like, but in my head,
You were
picture,
thinking about
this is what happens when you lift a weight. So for me going into it, because I didn't have really an athletic background, I guess I tried to trust the process of building strength, and then I found out that it was functionality.
Mm.
And the more functional I became, the stronger I became at these movements. So
as a mom now,
mhm.
like now you've been doing this for 7 years, 8 years. Like, how do you view strength now? Like, what is the benefit of strength to you now?
Strength to me is freedom to be able to do what I want to do. And I mean, just from a perspective of a woman who I have 2 daughters, knowing that they're not limited and to be an example to them of you're not limited because you're a woman and you should embrace strength training, because especially as a female, men have a natural strength. It's called testosterone. It really angers me, but it's true.
That's your testosterone you heard coming out.
To me, personally, I don't know who else feels that way, but to have the ability of not to build a strength so that I know I can lift that and I don't need to ask for help, or I can do whatever the task is and I can do it myself, is huge.
So I'll ask you a question here, kind of further the point. If strength is freedom, you just got 3 horses, right?
Yes.
Did you have any hesitation about this that wasn't related to logistics?
No. Well,
That's what we mean by strength is
that's
freedom.
true. Yeah.
That's just an awesome example. Millie knows that there's not a single thing that these horses need that she can't take care of because she has trained it and proven it to herself time and time again in the gym.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, I think when you use that term freedom, that's a really powerful word in general. But when we talk about it in the terms of strength, and in the terms of fitness, is when we are stronger, it makes everything else easier, right? And we talked about this a little bit with cardiorespiratory endurance, is that when the things that we're doing with our body or actively doing get hard, it's easier for us to cease those activities. And when we develop our strength and we maintain our strength, it makes those activities so much easier to accomplish, which then also keeps us more active. And so then we could even go into the fact of like, and I know we touched on this the other day, is that when we go into the idea of like, oh, hey, I want to lose weight, or I want to decrease my body fat. Well, the stronger I am, the more capable I am, the greater ability I have to do work. My body moves more efficiently and more effectively. So then therefore I can do more work at an easier level. I now burn more calories. I now maintain more muscle mass. When we maintain muscle mass, which happens through strength training, by the way, when we maintain muscle mass or grow muscle mass, and not in size necessarily, like I'm getting bigger, but when I develop my muscle mass, it also then demands more of my body's metabolism. So therefore I burn calories more efficiently because I have a higher metabolic rate. And so it's like this vicious cycle of like, oh my gosh, like just strength training, right? Like
the snowball rolls down.
yes, yes. And so, you know, it does, it is this massive freedom that's created through just developing strength. You know, the other thing that I would touch on when we think about strength training in general, or like maybe to promote making sure that you're doing, is that there are it's like the shelf life, right? So when you train in certain systems, when you train the body, certain systems maintain a shelf life, or and I'm probably not using the greatest scientific term here, but like we think about shelf life as like, I put in this work, okay, and then how long will I maintain the effects of that work, or the benefits of that work? Well, when we strength training actually maintains, like you hold that, like if I trained the back squat this month and I didn't back squat for another 6 weeks, the benefits of my back squat are actually, they're benefiting me longer than say I ran a mile this month. The benefits of that mile do not maintain as long. Like, so to maintain cardiorespiratory endurance, I have to constantly be hitting it, right? So for the person that says, I want to train 3 days a week, sometimes maybe the best thing that they could do is strength train 3 days a week, because they're going to maintain the benefits of that strength training longer than if I said, hey, I want to, you know, just train 3 days a week, cardiorespiratory endurance. Like I actually, when I go from Friday to the following Monday, maybe I'm not maintaining that work or maintaining that progress as well.
And they're missing a huge supporting piece to that endurance work.
For sure.
Without the strength training.
Yeah.
You know, there's a reason why the term old man strength has been used for a long time, and it's very real. My late grandpa was an iron worker, and my grandpa died after, like, he recently passed away with a pretty long battle with cancer. That dude's grip was still iron.
Yeah.
Like that guy's handshake was still iron.
Yeah.
Like he spent his whole life working with his hands. After the age of 60, he chose to build a house and a cabin by himself as a project, like from the ground up. Like, yeah, it sticks with you. Like that is a huge, again, that's why they're starting to look at strength as a longevity measure.
Yeah.
Grip strength in particular, I've seen as a measure used in clinical research.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And then, I mean, we evaluate that on the therapy side of things a lot. So it's very true. And, you know, I think that, you know, to the listener out there that's going like, you know, why do I need to lift weights, or why do I need to, like, and lifting weights is the term, right? But there's a lot of ways to strength train. But
my grandpa never went to a gym.
Right. But that development of the body systems there, from a longevity piece, like I just think about, you know, I was working with a client the other day, and we're literally working right now on getting up and down off the ground. And just because of life circumstances, they've just not been challenged to do that. And we're all going to wind up finding the ground at some point.
Yep.
Whether that's through a fall, whether that's intentional, whether that's unintentional, whatever, we're going to find the ground. And it's important that we can get up. Well, so if you can imagine your body and your body weight, so I'm 175 pounds. If I don't have the strength to be able to move 175 pounds, or even half my body weight, if I need to press myself up or stand up, like strength matters just with your own body, right? So let's not even like consider carrying the groceries. Let's not even talk about the laundry, or, you know, helping your husband or wife or partner, you know, move the furniture in the house or whatever else, or heaven forbid, you know, something has, you know, happened in a bad way that you actually have to, you know, help someone or save them. We had a client like a few years back, like literally pulled a woman from a burning car. Like it was like heroic stuff, right? But that demands strength, right? It also demands a whole lot level of braveness and all this other stuff, right? And, you know, wherewithal to deal with that.
But the ability to do that was not.
But the ability to do that, like it has to be there. And when we think about like, well, and we talked about this in our programming conversations this week around some movements that we're doing in class, like this is like, I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it, right? Because when you don't have it, like it will be exposed. No different than cardiorespiratory endurance. So like, and that's just for true function, like you're talking about. Like if my clients who, most of my clients now are in their 60s, 70s, if one of them's getting ready to turn 80 actually in a couple of weeks. But if they are not strong enough, like to handle their own body, then like they are at a detriment to even be able to take care of themselves.
Just the general safety of living on their own.
Correct. Yeah. So, yeah, I think we've hit the nail on the head, like strength.
Yeah.
Be strong.
Yeah, like it really does. It can be an enabler. It will be an enabler or a limiter at some point. It can enable you to go and try that new thing, or it will prevent you from being able to live the life that you want to live. It doesn't really happen on accident. And that's really that. Sets and reps aside, like strength is a very important quality in a human's ability to, again, just live their life. Like it's why I was able to get on my prosthetics so quickly. Like
I was going to touch on that. Like
whenever I first, as I went through that process, everyone's like gait, and gait is your walking stride. It's how you walk. It's your technique. And they put all these people, they just put them right on parallel bars and they just tell them try. And they have them keep going and going, and they just keep doing that. Well, they're not like, I was like, I don't think this doesn't jive to me. This doesn't work for, like, the teaching process didn't click for me. I went straight to the trap bar deadlift. And the whole point being is that posterior chain strength has a lot to do with your ability to control your hips. Your ability to control your hips has a lot to do with your ability to walk well. So for me, trying to learn how to walk on this stilt almost, I had to be strong enough to manipulate my device.
Right.
So I had to and that's where a lot of people miss. And that's why I'm doing what I'm doing in that community, trying to change the way things are done a little bit. I should say change, adjust. But like, I would do sets of deadlift and then I would practice my gait, because that would get those muscles firing. It would teach me how to use my prosthetic to fire that, which is what I had to do on the walk. Where that becomes very important in the real life setting is I went from a gym setting inside of a trap bar, perfectly balanced. I have handles that are very small, easy to fit in my hands, yada, yada, yada. So I get that perfect environment to learn the basic essence of the skill. And then I go into the wildness of the real world, walking.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to refine that in the lab, if you will, and then take it out into the world. Whereas a lot of people are like, they're not being given that in that community. They're not being given that strength base to give them the ability to actually use technique.
Yeah.
Strength limits your technique, your ability to learn and execute techniques. Like even like we look at a discipline like yoga. Yoga is a quality of strength. That stability that is required for that is a quality of strength.
Mm-hmm.
And if any of these qualities are lacking, that's the new limit. You will be able to move. Like if my top end strength is here, my horsepower is going to vary. I'm going to get worse on scientific terms.
Sweet.
If my horsepower is up here and my stability is here, I get to express my horsepower until about here.
Right.
And if I go past that, I'm probably going to be looking at an injury, or I'm going to accumulate an issue over time. I used to use the term with an athlete. She came in, she was very powerful, very not stable, because she'd only ever been taught go, 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 and she loved it. It was like trying to shoot a cannon out of a canoe.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the results may vary.
Right.
As we got her more stable, her lifting became very consistent. Her ability to learn new movements went through the roof.
Right.
Because we have brought up that lacking quality of her strength.
Yeah.
And so like all these things are like, people are like, oh, it's just technique, or oh, it's not strength, it's balance. Balance is strength.
Yeah.
Your ability to be accurate in your movement is a quality of strength. It is
right.
a limit. It can be limited by strength.
Well, we talked about this, right? So, on the 10 different business skills, we have these 4 on one side that are training related. Strength is one of those. Then we have practice related things, neurological practice, neurological development, which would be balance, agility, coordination, and accuracy, right?
Yeah.
So those 4 pieces right there, like you're talking about, like, well, those come together and they create power and speed, right? They create, those pieces. So, and as you were talking, like something I just thought about, and we'll kind of maybe finish off with this, but you know, if you're someone out there that's like thinking about, okay, like maybe I'm not exercised, or I'm not currently exercising. Like, I think, you know, we've kind of shown you the way a little bit of like step one, walk, like cardiorespiratory endurance, like cardiovascular and respiratory endurance. That starts with steady state, you know, cardiovascular exercise. It's going to generate blood flow. That's unloaded, right? So that's walking, that's cycling, that's swimming, that's like whatever, like the lowest barrier to entry is walking, because you can literally go outside and do it right now, depending on where you're at. The next piece is stamina. And so like this is probably like an indicator to our clients too, like when they think about how we program, like we don't program strength every day, right? No, we probably focus on cardiorespiratory endurance. We focus on stamina, which would be CrossFit style workouts, like the higher.
It really hits an intersection. Stamina is very much in the Venn diagram of cardiovascular.
Right,
strength.
like they're all right there. And then true strength training happens about 1 to 2 days a week, because we can sustain strength longer
And then
in those hits, right?
Yep. And then we can also just steal little bits for the type of work that we do.
Yes,
Because that volume still matters as long as it's executed well.
right.
Yeah, it's exactly why. It's exactly why we don't strength train, why we left the strength Metcon model.
Right. And well,
It's not exactly why. There was a few more very good reasons why.
sure. But again, you know, that when we're looking at general fitness, like the shelf life of strength, like it doesn't have to be like, we're not strength biased, because we don't need to be, because we can hit strength in variable increments. And we've seen it, we've shown it, actually it's happened like 3 times in the last 3 weeks that we've shown, oh, you're getting stronger. And they're like, oh, how am I getting stronger? I'm like, oh, because we're doing the right stuff. But
Because you're showing up,
right. But it's not because you're strength training 5 days a week.
Yeah, we did a back squat for the first time in a handful of months.
Yeah.
And how many people hit 5 rep max PRs
Yes,
without testing for a 5 rep PR?
correct.
And then almost everyone said they had more in the tank.
Right. Yeah.
So it comes to a point like, is the point of strength training to be stronger or to get a video of you doing a weight? Right? Well, I mean,
I'm only doing this stuff.
and I realized I realized what answer was coming when I said that, but we check in and we prove like, well, we're not back squatting all the time, but clearly we're getting stronger at our back squatting.
Yeah, and it's from it's the residual effects of everything.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't have to continue to dip into the bank on a movement that takes a lot.
Right. Yeah. So that's really good insight there, Coach. So, but yeah, so appreciate you guys joining us again, coaches. Thanks a lot for sharing with us on strength. We went off the cuff today and we stayed, under 30 minutes, I think. So
I'm under 60.
not too bad. Under 60 minutes. Yeah.
I feel like that was
next week. We're going to talk about another 10 general physical skill. I don't know what it is right now because I don't have my notes in front of me. So power. We're
So if we're following kind of like strength, cardio, stamina, strength, power, I think would make sense.
I don't know.
I made an exact.
We're going to talk about something. We're going to talk about something next week.
We're likely.
We'll be around and we'll talk about fitness. So take care, guys. If you want to know more about these 10 general skills, you want to learn how to train with us, how to dive into your fitness, or to just experience a new way to accomplish your goals, get a hold of us. You can reach out on our website. You hit the learn more button. You can book a consult. You'll sit down with either Coach Millie, a couple of our Coach Allie, Coach Alyssa, and we'll chat with you about your goals and what you're looking for and see if we can help. Take care, guys. We'll talk to you next week.